Hi, welcome to this video lesson. My name is Sam Dhaneshekaran. In this video, let us take a look at directory service. What is it anyway? Let's just say there are two companies called A1 and A2, each in their own building, and let me call them A1's building and A2's building. By default, the employees from one company cannot enter into other company's building. If an employee from A1 asks for permission to enter A2's building using the employee badge from A1, then that employee will be denied access. In this case, each company maintains their own directory of employees and will not allow anyone else to enter into the building. Now, a company called B1 acquires both A1 and A2. All of the employees from A1 and A2 are now the employees of B1. Now, the company B1 has three buildings under its control. Its own building B1, which it calls as head office, and the buildings of A1 and A2. It says every B1 employee can enter into any of these three buildings. So, in essence, the head office will maintain the directory of employees, and these employees can enter not only the building B1 but also the buildings A2 as well as A1 by showing their employee badge. So, the buildings A1 and A2 becomes two resources which can be accessed by any B1 employee. So, in this example, B1 maintains the employee directory which the reception areas in the buildings of A1 and A2 subscribe and allow people inside as needed. Now, imagine there is another company called X1 which owns buildings Y1 and Y2, just like B1 owns A1 and A2. So, that company X1 has headquarters X1 building. As we have seen already, an employee of the company B1 is generally not allowed to access the buildings X1 or Y1 or Y2 since these buildings are owned by X1. Now let's imagine that a new company called ITshots.com acquires both the companies B1 and X1. Disclaimer: instead of ITshots.com, I could have named it as ABC, but I wanted to avoid using any real company's name as much as possible. And since there are companies with almost every name possible, I'm just using one of my domain names, ITshots.com, in this example. Okay, now ITshots acquires both B1 and X1, but lets them operate as its independent subsidiary companies with certain modifications in the access. Okay, so ITshots allow B1 and X1 operate as just regular companies. Only difference is they now belong to ITshots.com and there are going to be certain modifications in the access. Let's take a look at those modifications. For example, the board of directors from ITshots will have access to both these companies, B1 and X1. Then the senior management from both these companies need to access each other. The finance team from each companies need to work together and share the finance information, but they cannot access anything else. So these are the conditions. All of a sudden, the requirement gets a little bit complex. Anyone who is designated as the board of directors need to be able to access and enter any of these buildings and access any resources in these buildings. Okay, so anyone who is designated as board of directors need to access everything, in essence. Also, the senior management in B1 Inc. may enter X1 Inc. and access all the resources, as well as vice versa. The senior management from X1 can enter B1 and enter all the resources there. The finance people from each companies can enter any of the buildings and access just the finance related documents, but not anything else. So as you notice, the requirement becomes a little bit complex and the access needs to accommodate as needed. So in this case, the directory of employees contain multiple branches. For example, iReorg, being the main organization, contains the starting point, if I may simply say that. It has its own employee list consisting these board members. Then one level below, there are two lists which are kind of subdirectories to the main directory, iReorg. These subdirectories contain information about B1 employees as well as X1 employees. Then comes multiple organization units such as senior management's finance team, etc. So the authorization has to happen using this main directory as a starting point and traverse through to find any subdirectories, and then authorization has to complete, and then the access needs to be granted as needed. So going back to the computer world, we can either make the domain controller servers in a network to take care of directory services also, or we can install separate powerful servers which can take care of directory services. Remember, directory service is much more than maintaining the list of users. It has to authenticate the users based on the password or other mechanisms being used in that system. For example, a system can also be using thumbprint or facial recognition systems. Once the authentication is done, then the directory server has to provide the right access to the resources as needed. So it's also common to have separate servers who can do directory services function like I just said. It can take care of authentication. In the cloud world, we can also subscribe to the directory services provided by the cloud vendor. Microsoft Azure provides Active Directory service, while Amazon provides AWS Directory service. So let's do a quick recap. So far, we have seen the following cloud components: CPU, which is a compute resource. Obviously, in cloud, when we rent the computers, we need to specify the various computing power for that computer. In other words, how powerful that computer should be, right? So CPU, again, the compute resource determines how powerful that computer will be. Then we also saw RAM or memory. This determines the size of memory that particular computer can use. Okay, so this is also an important factor in determining the cost of the computer as well as how powerful that computer would be. Then we also saw hard disk drive or storage. Okay, this determines the size of storage used by that computer. Okay, if we need a larger system, then we need to go for a larger storage. Then we also saw about the operating system. If I want to have a Linux based computer, then obviously the operating system should be any one of the flavors of Linux. Or if I want to have a Windows based operating system, then obviously I need to use Windows. So the cost of the computer will vary. I mean, the subscription cost will vary based on the operating system also. And in this lesson, we just saw about directory service. So it's common that companies can subscribe to the directory services provided by the cloud vendors, or they can install their own directory services. Okay, but whatever it is, this is what a directory service. Thank you.